They will share their insights on the future trends, implementing cutting-edge technologies, and the evolving business models that we need to take control of in order to stay competitive. So I will be moderating this session. I would like to welcome my first panelist. He is the Regional Managing Director of Kiko Milano, Jonathan Lantoine. Welcome, Jonathan. Mr. Bahjat Yousfi, Executive Vice President of Sales Operations for Abdul Qurashi. Welcome, Bahjat. Ms. Phoebe Song, the CEO and founder of Snowfox Skincare. Welcome, Phoebe. And last but not least, the Head of Intelligence for Chalhoub Group, Shadman. Welcome, Mo. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you're all very excited to get the insights from our leaders up here today. And it's all about meeting future consumer demands. Gen Zs, Alphas, clearly shop very differently from myself. So I'm going to begin with you, Jonathan. We're discussing the strategies. What strategies are you implementing at Kiko Milano to personalize the consumer experience and to offer a more tailored service?
So thank you for having me on stage first, and good morning everyone. Personalization at Kiko Milano is extremely important. It's part of our personalization, I was saying. So we're looking at it with three different axes. So first, a couple of years ago, the company went through a complete restructure of our database infrastructure. So we changed data collection, we're partnered with Data Lake, we changed our POS, we have also mobile POS, we changed our loyalty program, we changed our e-commerce platform to make sure that we are advancing into a world of unified commerce with the data and the consumer at the base of everything that we're doing. And obviously with accurate data, we're able to make sure that we have personalized communication and exchange with our Kiko lovers. So that's the first axe, which is a tool for number two. At Kiko Milano as well, the personal service, the personal touch is extremely important. So when you go to a Kiko Milano store, you have a beauty advisor to welcome you, and she will use the data that we collect through our loyalty program, through previous purchase history, to tailor-make the approach and to make sure that you have service and a product that is dedicated to you. We also have services that could be 10 minutes free makeup and go services where you get to know more about your own needs, your own skin, your own style. And you have longer services, 30, 60 minutes where you really want to get in. And then the last one, an important one as well, product. So we do offer a very, very wide range of product. Colors and shades are part of our DNA as well. At any given moment in time in a store, you will have 2,000 different products. And we aim to be a platform for people to express their uniqueness. And obviously, personalization and uniqueness are going hand to hand. And you can imagine that with 2,000 different products in store, the combination are limitless. So we are able to offer that platform where people can express themselves and really have a personalized approach to what beauty means to them.
That's true. I walked into a Kiko Milano store last year for the very first time. Yes, with my 15-year-old who told me to do so with her. And I was amazed at how many different shades of lipstick that you have within that one store. It was phenomenal. Yeah. But does that create a lot of stock?
It does. That being said, diversity and inclusivity is also, I know everyone speaks about them and those keywords are very important, but for us it translates in, even if some stock's not moving so much, it's important to have that shade for that one customer that will enter the store and will be delighted to have the shade that fits her. Yes. So it can sometimes create stock issue, but for us it's more important to wow the customer and answer to everyone's needs.
Okay, very true. Not just different shades, but different textures. I mean, you have from matte to fantastic. Thank you very much, Jonathan. Bahjat, fragrance brands, what sort of challenges are they facing when adapting to changing customer demands?
Yeah, actually, many challenges, but I can talk about one significant challenge, which is the balance between the tradition and the innovation. So in the same time, while consumers, especially young consumers nowadays, they require a unique, personalized fragrance for themselves. In the same time, they honor the heritage and the authenticity of the brand. And this is what we did actually at Abdul Qurashi, because our perfume, our fragrances are deeply rooted and inspired by tradition and by norms and by the culture, the deep culture here in the GCC, UAE, Saudi Arabia, and the GCC and Middle East. So one of our products, which is really required here in the region, is, for example, the oil. Now, the traditional way of presenting the oil is by pouring it into small bottles. But we moved from this approach to another approach to make it ready, packed as a gift. Because now the consumer preferences, they want, especially the young consumers, they want something easy to carry, easy to buy, and very suitable for a gift with the different sizes. So this matching and this blending, actually we took care to do the blend carefully between our craftsmanship and the innovative development of the products.
Right. And so this region is very much jasmine, musk, oud, these, very strong scents. Is one of your challenges perhaps using other ingredients, say maybe more citrus or patchouli, try to sell this or incorporate these ingredients in your product, or you are really sticking with the traditional?
At all. And this was also another challenge, and we overcome this long time ago, because even if you can look at the international fragrance brands, they started to include oud, musk, amber in their blends and in their juices. What we did here in the Middle East and in the GCC, we did some facelift, some twists to our perfumes and the fragrances to match not only the GCC, but also the international consumers. And especially nowadays, UAE, Dubai, even Saudi, they are more metropolitan cities.
Yes.
Many nationalities are there, different genders are there, different age groups. So in order to match the customer and the consumer expectation, we have to develop our offering accordingly.
Yes, thank you very much, Bahjat. Phoebe, so in regards to your strategies at Snow Fox, how important is it to address the question of regional taste and regional preferences? And how do you, adapt and sort of maneuver through that strategy for localizing your brand, various regions?
So I'd like to give some background.
Yes, I think it's important. Go for it.
Snow Fox, we are small, and very much like animal that is our logo. In every industry you have bears, you have bulls, you have unicorns, you have zebras. We are very much a fox. We are small and we are agile.
How old is Snow Fox, just to have an idea?
Oh, okay, so we're about 8 years old.
8, okay.
But if you haven't heard of us, it's because we've literally just entered the GCC for the first time in the last few months.
Congratulations. I think that
Thank you.
deserves a round of applause. Fantastic. Well done.
Thank you.
Snow Fox.
But we are a very small team, actually. So
Okay.
we are a small team. We're mainly B2B. We specialize in skin. But we are in 6 different regions.
Okay.
We deal in multiple different languages, and it is difficult. So when you're small, agile, we deal in Japanese, Mandarin, Cantonese, English, American English, Australian English. We have distributors in Sweden, and now we are dealing in Arabic.
So that makes for a lot of labels.
Yes. And so one of the ways, we have 2 approaches. So number 1, our internal team. How do you manage all these regionals with a very diverse team, right? And the other way to look at it is, how do you manage your clients, where all these different cultures? So things like feeling and liking and, all these are relative to a certain culture. So how can you make a product that all 6 regions love? And especially in skincare, it is hyper competitive. So how do you make one product that everybody loves? And so we deal with this by hiring the right people for each region. So I'm of a strong belief that a Japanese CEO should run Japan. I'm not going to assume that I know better. So we do this in every region. And I think understanding the cultural aspects of things and then understanding the core value of each market. Because I think regardless of market, regardless of culture, if you share the same core values with your clients, then you can communicate well.
Yes.
And that's how we deal with it.
But are you going to make one product that's only going to be sold in this part of the world, because it definitely won't appeal to the Japanese consumer?
So we're a little crazy.
Yeah.
We just launched the same products.
The same?
The same products.
The same products.
Yes.
Okay. Clearly you have something that appeals to all, right? If you're playing on the age defiance or the, yeah.
But our communication for every product is highly localized in that group of culture. So for example, my Dubai team,
Yes.
they understand So all my teams understand the core values and the core benefits of every single product. And this is what I mean. I think core values and core benefits transcend culture and languages. Ultimately, if this smells nice to you, it smells nice to me. If something is sour to me, it is sour to you, right? Regardless of our culture. If something is soft to you, it is soft to me. So we focus on the similarities, and then we basically localize by changing the communication method. So I leave it to my regional heads to do that, and that is something that has worked great for us.
Very well done. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Mo, I understand that you're with the Chalhoub group and that you track performance of the beauty market.
We do.
Very good. Can you tell us how the beauty market has been doing over the
Perfect.
past few years? Let's start with that.
Perfect. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the introduction and thanks for having me here. I work for Chalhoub. We are one of the largest luxury retail partners in the region for beauty, for fashion, for watches, jewelries, some beauty tech as well. In the context of beauty, we partner with the vast majority of the beauty larger multinationals, including the LVMH brands, including Sephora, L'Oreal, Coty, Puig, etc. So I think one aspect of having all these partners is we're able to get the data and information to create our own panel. As you know, there's no such luxury beauty panel in this region. So by being at Chalhoub, by working in the intelligence team, we have that advantage. So the question you asked, firstly, I'd like to say I moved here about a year and a half back. It was fascinating to find out that the size of the beauty market here is about 10 billion USD, which is quite insane considering other very large markets are between 20 to 30 billion. So that's one. Second is it has been the fastest growing category worldwide in beauty, and within this market, beauty has been faster than other categories. Over the last few years, the long-term growth has been about 8 to 10%, which is very high over a 4-year period. This year, the beauty market continues to grow at around 10%. And in the coming years, we expect it to grow between 8 to 10% as well. We're seeing a lot of different things happening, so it's not any specific thing that is driving the growth. A lot of interest in younger Gen Z consumers, a lot of interest in niche fragrances and private collection fragrances, a lot of new trendy brands coming in, specifically in skincare, which has been the fastest growing. So between makeup, fragrances, and skincare has been growing 15 to 20% year over year. Again, a very large market, a very exciting market, a very fast-growing market. And I think the other piece of the excitement coming in the market is you can see a lot of international players that were not there before, like L'Etoile, like Lisa, like Gold Apple, have entered the market because they know the potential that is here in the GCC. So I think there's a lot more to come, but a lot has happened as well over the last few years.
So this information you've just given, it's not just for the UAE, right? It's for the whole region?
Correct. It is for the GCC market, so the 6 countries that cover GCC, yes.
Is there one that's like leading?
I would say from a size standpoint, again, when we look at prestige beauty, which is a smaller chunk of the 10 billion, that's about 2 to 2.5 billion. Now that is more selective distribution like your Sephora, your Faces, your department stores. Within that universe, you have UAE as a larger market. But as we look at the totality of the 10 billion, Saudi by far is the largest market where you have the pharmacy channels, which make up a large portion of skincare and beauty as well. And then you have the other channels as well. But the other thing that, when we were talking behind the scenes, you have Arabic fragrances, which makes a huge part of the market, which we don't necessarily track because, these are single companies that operate on their own. So I think it would be interesting to know how big those markets are, because then that number, 11 billion, would probably be quite a bigger than what we had. So in terms of growth, UAE is the fastest among the selective beauty, but overall, Saudi is the biggest and the fastest as well.
Okay. And what do you foresee for the coming years?
For the coming years, we foresee 7 to 8% growth over the next 3 years. So we continue to expect to see growth at least for the next 3 years.
Fantastic. That's great news, isn't it? All right. So let's continue on, Jonathan. How do you ensure that your brand remains agile and adaptable without losing sight of your core business values?
Agility, I mentioned earlier for personalization that it was part of our DNA. Agility is another one. So agility is another one of our core value and DNA. That's part of the history of the brand as well. We are retailers. We have across the world probably 1,200, 1,400 stores as of today. We're present in more than 65 markets, which give us also the opportunity to be extremely close to the consumer and to react as quickly as possible. Also, through that network of stores, we have our colleagues and our beauty advisor in stores, so that's 8,000 people. We keep developing quality product. In the beauty world, in the beauty industry, developing a product can take from 12 to 18 months in terms of go-to-market. So we want to remain true to our brand, and we want to remain authentic to our core value, which is also quality. Quality is our North Star at Kiko Milano. So when we collect that data and from customer and from beauty advisor, then we are able to answer with the right qualitative product and to adapt our offering per market. One of the examples is since 3-4 years now, we're offering a Ramadan collection. So
You're offering what?
a Ramadan collection, completely made from scratch for consumer in the region, that also has an appeal worldwide because we are launching those collections in Paris, New York, London, wherever needed. And that helps us again to answer local needs and to make sure that we listen to our consumer and we're there to give them what they're looking for.
Do you find that it's difficult to remain agile with such a large, diverse product range?
Because we are so close to our consumer, I would say it's one of our strengths because we are direct interacting with our consumer. So we are not really into the wholesale world as of today. So we have that direct approach and that direct contact with the consumer, like I mentioned, across the globe. Yes, we are getting big and big and big and bigger every single year, but we are not losing the sight of our consumer, and we are not losing the feedback from our consumer, either through direct consumer feedback or through our beauty advisor. And again, because we're so established around the world, we can get very quick feedback on trends, needs, gaps, or on the other hand, innovation that we're launching that are performing extremely well that we can then include into our core collection. So it's a massive pool of information and data that we're using as much as possible and as fast as possible.
Okay, thank you very much. Bahjat, let's talk about sustainability. What role does it play in meeting future customer demands? I mean, is it still at its infancy in the industry?
No, sustainability nowadays is not only a global term. It's something really essential and affecting the purchasing decisions of the consumer.
So even in the fragrance,
even in the
makeup,
fragrance,
okay.
yeah, because nowadays, and according to studies done by Euromonitor, consumers expressed their interest to reduce the energy consumption by 36% to 41% in Saudi and in UAE, respectively.
Yes.
So nowadays, the consumer more cautious and more aware and more interested in a green beauty or clean beauty. And this is a fast-growing also category in the beauty sector. So they ask about the ingredients, is it natural or not natural? More interested about the eco-friendly practices which brands do it. That's why all the retailers and beauty makers, they should consider all of these procedures, like in fragrance, for example, using refillable bottles or recyclable packaging, degradable ingredients. All of this is very important to provide a new offering with more sustainable, with more social responsibility to the community.
Yeah.
So this will increase the loyalty of the customers.
Do you think that in the coming years we're going to see regulators really putting their foot down and making it official, like no more?
When you can see that in the Christmas and the winter is late in Toronto, and it's happening here in the GCC. So there is something really weird with the global warming, and here it comes that we need to decrease the CO2 footprint.
Christmas in Toronto, sorry. We're just talking about
Yes.
that.
Yeah, because the family is in Toronto, you know.
He's from Toronto, yes. No, was from.
So actually, yeah. And they started, according to the European and the American international standards, many ingredients were dropped out. And now it's prohibited, according to EFRA, for the fragrance industry. And we are not using, all the fragrance makers, they are not using these ingredients anymore. So yeah, the expectation is to focus more about sustainability.
Right, okay. So brands should really start looking into if they're not already there. Fantastic. Phoebe, what are the advantages and disadvantages of using new beauty techniques as opposed to the older, ancient techniques that are probably more artisanal and rooted in tradition?
So I think our SKUs have a really good example of ancient beauty techniques and the newest modern dermal tech. So Snowfox, I think uniquely, we have, for example, our ancient gua sha brushes. Just in this show, I think we are the only ones in the world right now that create 24-karat gold-plated gua sha hair brushes. These are hair and scalp stimulation brushes plated in 24-karat gold that have only to be made by hand. These are rare even in Asia. and it was a dying art. So we work with the last generation of elderly artists in Taiwan to create these brushes. Now we have gotten a lot of people freaking out because they're like, this is a gold-plated hairbrush, are you guys nuts? But no, this is actually a heritage item, right? And the advantages, and honestly from a business perspective, people have laughed at me in my face and just called me the worst businesswoman on earth. Because supply chain-wise, this is a terrible item. Handmade, elderly artists, they're probably going to die. And who's going to continue this? We have not found apprentices. It's a dying art, right? But why do we do it? Number one, it's not about the money. We are reviving an ancient culture and heritage that we want to pass to the future generations. Because of us, it's impacted our industry and our people that we are finally seeing a revival of this for the next 10 years. I've booked out my artists for the next 2 years.
Oh gosh.
This is what we have been able to do.
I hope he has a lineage like after. Is he training other people with this art, this ancient technique?
So we have 4 elderly artists. The youngest is 65. The oldest is, he's like 76 now. And his son has come back into the business now.
Okay.
After this happened, right? So, this can actually change the legacy of a family, right? Like this kind of trend. So we created a demand. We showed the market what it was, weird gua sha brush thing. And even at this show, this was probably one of our most interesting items. Like people here have never seen a gua sha brush. And when they see it in person, they want it, right? So this is an advantage. And I think one of the benefits is ancient beauty techniques, ancient art like this, craftsmanship. There is a human element and a heritage to it that can never be replaced by machine, right? Yes. On the other hand, we have plant-based exosomes. And also here in this show, I have explained to them what are exosomes. It's really hot in East Asia right now. We're using it in everything. Oh, God. But we're one of the few that are using plant-based exosomes.
Have you heard of exosomes, ladies and gentlemen? No. What's an exosome?
They're basically a little bit similar to stem cells, but they are cellular vesicles that have been extracted out of a living organism. So I know this is going to sound a little maybe not so nice, but a lot of it is from humans. So originally, the technique was taken out of human cells, right? And then injected or given back to you. But I understand the ethical concerns about it, not to mention, the health concerns about it. Okay. It's just so new, but we do the plant-based version. So we have both, right? And the advantage of this is that I think it shows and takes the dermal progression, like what we do, to the next level, right? Right. So when the old techniques have heritage and human element, the new things take us to beauty on a different level, right?
So it's nice to see that you're taking the best from ancient techniques and more modern technologies like exosome and fusing it together. And
yeah, why not both, right?
Why not both together? Exactly. Thank you for the information. Welcome. All right, Mo, let's talk about the role that brand equity plays in the sustainable growth and development of brands in the region.
It's a bit hard to follow.
It's a completely, we're going
24
we're going less scientific.
But I definitely think that the 24-karat gold-plated hairbrushes be something that works in this market very well. So
thank you.
Did she sell it to you, Mo?
Yeah, I'm sold. I'm sold. I just need to see how expensive it is.
Oh,
it's expensive.
Can we reveal? Oh, it's real.
So it's around 120 USD.
Okay, not too bad.
One brush. People get upset. They're like, "Why is it so expensive?" I'm like, "It's hand carved by a 75-year-old who's not going to exist in maybe 5 years from now."
Yes,
it's a heritage item. I know in this day, she and T not on the same level, but yeah.
Thank you.
I think before I answer the question, I think it's important as we do our day-to-day jobs, we forget the importance of brand building, especially when it comes to businesses in this region, which could be either a distributor or doing some level of sales, as opposed to the headquarters of larger brands. So I think it's important to remind ourselves how important building a brand is. I was working before my stint here. I was at Coty leading the fragrance business there in the insights piece, and we analyzed for 10 years the top 20 fragrance brands, because what we used to keep hearing from the brands were innovation and newness is the only thing that drives fragrances. While that is true, when we looked at 10 years, of the 20 brands that were in the top 20, 15 were the same, which is basically telling you while there is some level of newness, there is that level of historical heritage and equity that still drives the largest brands. So what we started this year at Chalhoub was to do a brand equity tracker for fragrances and makeup. And I think the story is actually very different between fragrance, between makeup, between UAE, between Saudi. Give some quick nuggets as to what we learned. I think for fragrances, we learned that one, the big brands like the Dior, Chanel, and Gucci still make up a large portion of what is in people's minds and equity. And then comes the Arabic fragrances, where actually Abdul Qurashi was among the top 5 brands that people mentioned. So I think it's fascinating to see in fragrances, the Arabic fragrances, the modern Oriental fragrances, commercial fragrances all play an equally important role.
For now, right?
For now,
But the Dior,
yeah.
Chanel that you just mentioned, are they catering to the upcoming generations, the Zs and the Alphas?
Not as much as some of the niche and the private collection brands. I think even within Dior, they have their private collection. Even within Gucci, they have their private collection. So I think when it comes to Gen Z, they are quite advanced when it comes to fragrances. I mean, for makeup, it's a completely different story. But they are looking for experimentation. They are looking for the new trends. What we see, what drives the fragrances still is the trust and the emotional bonding you have with the brand, but also the efficacy and the performance of the fragrance, the long-lastingness of the scent. So I think this market is 50% fragrances, which is very unique from any other global market, which tells you that people know fragrances, people use a lot of fragrances, people use fragrances more often. So, you know, when it comes to fragrances, they're layering a lot. They have 8 to 10 bottles in their homes.
Yes.
So it is a different
And it's
beast.
not 1 to 2 sprays. It's
No,
like
it's a lot. It's a lot. So it is a lot,
Yes.
and people know a lot more about fragrances. So the expectation for a Dior or Chanel or Gucci to come in the market and provide a commercial brand is no longer the case. They need personalization. They need store associates to be able to say some story. They need their uniqueness in their collection. I think it is a very competitive market. And I know I talked about equity a few times, but how we look at equity is basically what is in people's minds for that brands. When we look at sales, we look at how much are people paying or their share of wallet. When we look at equity, it's about what's in people's mind, how desirable is the brand, what are the things that the brand stands for, do people remember your brand? So I think that's the thing that we measure to truly understand how much of market share has this brand taken in your mind. And so it's fascinating that fragrances and makeup are very different, and Saudi and UAE are very different. I do want to add, when we looked at makeup, we did see very clear differences between Gen Z and Gen X's. Gen Zs are obviously going with the trend, whether it be Rare Beauty or Fenty or Huda Beauty, whereas when it comes to Gen X's, they're looking at more established brands, like a MAC, for example. What we saw interesting was when we looked at the top 5 brands from a recall standpoint, Kiko Milano was among the top 5, which tells you that the universe for Chalhoub is not necessarily the same as what it is for people and consumers. While we like to separate like prestige versus mass, the average consumer doesn't necessarily see it that way. They're buying Maybelline, they're buying Kiko, they're buying Dior, depending on the occasion, depending on what need they need to fulfill. To them, it's makeup.
I would like, can
Please,
I
go
add
ahead.
one more point? Also, the effect of social media and celebrity endorsements.
Absolutely.
So yeah, this year we had a successful experience when we collaborate with one of the famous celebrities in the region and in the world, Huda Beauty. And we launched our recent fragrance out of Beautyworld collection. And it was a real success in 2024. And we really matched with the scent itself, with the formulation, a new and innovative formulation. And with this collaboration, we reach new consumer segments and we drive growth and revenue for the stores as well.
Very
So,
true.
yeah.
Some influencers are a way of attracting a new,
I mean,
new
because
market
the
sometimes.
consumer is tech savvy,
Yes.
and they depend a lot on social media, TikTok. Nowadays, they learn how to wear perfumes and why to pair perfumes and the fragrance from the TikTok.
Yeah.
And the new trends and the new guidelines, which is organized and established and built by Gen Z and Gen Alpha, not by us.
Absolutely not.
So
You're
we have
correct.
we have to understand this, and we have to meet their expectation as well.
Jonathan, how do you balance staying ahead of customer demands while maintaining the authenticity of your brand?
As I mentioned earlier, quality is our North Stars. We aim to partner with best in the industry. So we just launched our perfume very, very recently, a couple of weeks ago. And that was in a partnership with Givaudan, the French perfumier, behind most of the perfume that you were mentioning in the prestige industry. In makeup, we work with Intercos, which I think is at the salon as well, the leader in a premium and luxury cosmetic in the world. And we work very close with them to make sure that we are able to anticipate trends, to create trends, and to launch innovation. I was mentioning at the beginning that we have close to 2,000 products in our store at any given moment in time. Every single year, we launch 400 new products, being innovation, being limited edition shades, colors. Before we're talking about agility, because we have such a wide network of stores and beauty advisors, not all those products will be successes and become iconic products, but we're able to test the market very quickly. We're able to get feedback from the market very quickly, either being quantitative through data or qualitative through our consumer and beauty advisor. And that gives us the chance to bring those innovations that are working and in high demand from the consumer directly into our core baseline. So that's what's helping us to remain, I wouldn't say ahead of the trend, but at least on trend with the market. And just going back very quickly on brand equity. Sorry if I'm jumping back on the
No, it's fine.
the
This is
question.
what we're here for.
I completely agree with on their feedback. And it's true that brand equity, even for us, we're a 27-year-old brand, but we've been in the region for less than 10 years now. It's extremely important to start by brand equity more than brand awareness, because the consumer are extremely savvy. And they're asking more and more questions, and they want to know who you are, what you're standing for. And you need to be true to your core value, making sure that you have a proposition that is matching the values as well as your consumer in the market. That's why we're trying to localize as much as possible and to have an open communication with our consumer as much as possible. And it's way more important than your sellout, whatever is working, because that's what's gonna make you last in the future. We are trying for a brand, the challenge that we have compared to some competitors that might be multi-brand or have different offering, like I'm thinking about Sephora. It's making sure that we have an answer and a communication for each consumer. So there's a lot of discussion about Gen Alpha, Gen Z, Millennial. The market is definitely growing thanks to Gen Z and Gen Alpha, but there remains at Kiko a minority in the market. So we need to make sure as well that Millennium consumer is still being spoken to, addressed, that we have the product that answer their needs, while at the same time speaking to Gen Z and have product for Gen Z. So we're trying to navigate and make sure that we can have the answer for both. We were talking about social media. We need to have our communication on TikTok for our Gen Z. We have our communication on more Meta, Instagram, Facebook for our millennial consumers. So with a tone of voice answer to each of our consumers, listen to what they want again, being on trend for Gen Z, without losing who we are and what we're doing, and keeping always our value of quality, of affordability, trendy, inclusivity, and diversity, and that as well speak to everyone.
Very good, and very inclusive, because you've pretty much addressed everyone's needs, every generation's.
We're trying to.
Thank you. I'm going to skip you, Bahjat. Phoebe, what strategies can you use to expand your product assortment to align with the growing trends?
Just to go back a little bit, I think it's amazing. You guys are 27 years old.
Yeah.
And you have 400 new SKUs a year. So Snowfox were the total opposite. 8 years for me feels like a long time. You know, I started when I was 31, now I'm 40, and to me it feels like a long time. So 27 years for brand maturity, I think that's amazing. Super congratulations. Snowfox has around 22 SKUs. We're lucky if we launch 1 or 2 a year, but out of the 22, I think we have about 17 to 18 that are award winners. So our strategy is actually very, very different. I guess our strategy is based on understanding who we are, and skincare is very different to color. I think in every company, you need someone who's creative like me and someone who's data-driven. So actually, Dr. Tan in the audience, he is the person who drives all my analytics and all my data. We do use data actually to make a lot of agile decisions. And because we're so small, we can actually move very quickly to address new trends and new genres in our clients. So we deal a lot with millennials and Gen Z. We've found great success. And it really is understanding, number one, who we are at core. And we're a clean beauty brand, right? And as mentioned before, sustainability is a huge growing trend. Clean beauty is almost every brand now. But we started 8 years ago. So I would say we were the early ones in clean. And this has just worked so well for us. So we continue to expand into certain categories that work for us on a data, centric perspective, but we never lose sight of who we are, which is, that clean beauty core value.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go back to you, Bahjat. To sum it up, what are some of the key consumer trends that are currently shaping the beauty industry? And what strategies should our leaders, our audience members adopt to understand how to predict future consumer behavior?
We mentioned everything actually, from personalization, sustainability for sure, technology integration, especially when we are talking about Gen Z and Gen Alpha.
We didn't talk about AI. Nobody mentioned AI today. I'm surprised. I usually have this come up all the time.
AI, yeah, we'll talk about AI, no problem.
We just
So-
we can't use an avatar for beauty products.
Yeah.
We need to try it on us.
But
Yeah.
I have a good example regarding the innovation in the beauty industry with using the AI now in the era of AI. So, for example, for a fragrance, now we noticed we will see more and more products which is wearable scent kit like head or collar neck kits with a perfume, the fragrance library and cartridge. So using the AI, AR, and VR technologies, transforming the text or the emotions or the speech into choosing the right perfumes.
Yes.
And then with the use with the nozzle, so it's a total experience. Will burst the perfume exactly. Even in makeup, for example, in beauty, using the face recognition.
Yeah.
This is very well known. Depends on the AI using the face recognition. So they will decide what is according to the skin tone. What is the right product for this? So this is a revolution. This is
would
an
be great
innovation
in the
using
store. Like, how would I look with that purple lipstick on without having
Yeah.
to put the purple lipstick on? Yeah.
This could be online and in store as
Right.
well to improve the experience and also will enhance the personalization. This is what our consumers are looking for.
Kiko,
Right?
take notes.
So we actually, we didn't mention it, but we do have magic mirrors in some of our stores, powered by choose your style and your color and try them on. We also obviously have them online, which is where it's the most used. In the Kiko tagline, we have beauty, art, joy. At the end of the day, that's true that it's a technology and a tool that is very useful, but when people at least are in store, you feel the joy. Consumer wants still to try the product. So when we compare the use of AI versus the use of the mirror versus the actual try-on the product, people are still way more preferring trying on the product on
It's
their
true.
face directly.
I think, especially in skin, and I think a lot of our clients are women, right? We still buy on emotion. And I think things like feeling, texture, like these are all emotional driven things. AI, till at this stage, is not able to mimic human emotion. And the day it can is the day we probably should question ourselves.
True. Go ahead, Bahjat.
So I want to go back to personalization. We at Abdul Al Qurashi, since long time ago, before the AI and all of this revolution, we started to offer a personalized shopping experience when talking, because we have more than 600 stores all over the world. Our frontliner team facing the consumer every day. We started like 10 years ago offering a personalized experience, asking about the preference of the customers, trying to know their personality in order to choose the right fragrance and the right olfactory direction which match their expectation. And nowadays, many plans and we are working on developing all of this in order to provide better experience. One more thing regarding the new trends for customers, especially in the fragrance industry, is, as you said, the inclusivity, the welcoming, and the, let's say, non-gender fragrance. What I mean by this, that here in the Middle East, in GCC, Saudi, and UAE, we started to use this and to implement this before talking about unisex fragrances worldwide. Here you can see that men are using floral fragrances and women, they use woody fragrances as well.
You're right. My husband and I, we use the same santal. It's like sandalwood in English. We use the same for the first time. Yeah.
And
Le Labo.
when we talk
Le
to
Labo.
consumers, local Emiratis or Saudi nationals, older, to them there was no like male versus female fragrances. Like whereas in the West or in Europe or even in Asia, we've kind of defined fragrance as like this is the male fragrance, the female fragrance. But it's
And
this region has always been just it's fragrances. You can use it.
And this is actually combined with a new trend as well, which is well-being and emotional well-being. So now consumers are not buying or wearing perfume to impress others. No, they are wearing perfumes and the fragrance to feel better.
Yes.
You see this shift? So whatever it's male, female, I like this fragrance and I feel better, so I will wear it.
But I also feel better putting a specific scent. Something makes me feel happy, you know, the smell.
Energetic,
Energetic,
excited.
Yes. Absolutely. All right. So thank you very much for sharing those trends with us. Mo, let's talk about the Gen Z consumers, right?
Sure.
The ones that have the few, well, actually, they already have the purchasing power, many of them in this region. How do you see this consumer today, and what role do they play in the future, this category?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about Gen Z quite a bit, and I think this is the
Yes.
word of the day along with AI. There's some undeniable facts that
I just want to also mention
Yeah.
that throughout this event, the Euromonitor presentation yesterday mentioned that 70% of Saudi are under 30. And it just
yeah,
happens to be
yeah.
what you mentioned, one of the largest
Yep.
represented regions.
Yeah, they're one
Right.
of the youngest cohorts
Right.
among the cohorts.
So we need
They
to
have
come back to the Gen Z.
They have the second largest purchasing power. They have very high expectations when
Right.
it comes to whether it be makeup or skincare or fragrances. I think the intersection of Gen Z and skincare is probably the most interesting. If you walk into any Sephora or Faces, you will see a lot of young Gen Zers going in there, experimenting with all new brands. While they're interested in the trendy brands, they're also interested in something that's more personalized, something that's
Yes.
more inclusive, something that's more authentic. So I don't think anyone has been able to crack the code of exactly this is what the Gen Z is looking for, because they are experimental. They are loyal, but only to a certain extent.
yeah.
They're also looking for things that they value, whether it be concerns of environmentally friendly or sustainable packaging, along with authenticity. So there's a lot of things that Gen Z is concerned about, which I think, one, we need to acknowledge, two, we need to address them. We do a survey on the sentiment of the consumers, and in this region, when we asked Gen Z what their number one concern was, global warming came up. And we do this every quarter. I know that there are other concerns in this region, like the war in the Middle East. Despite of that, global warming still always comes up among the top two. So it really tells you that the younger population is very, very concerned about the environment, and to them it's a long-term problem.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So we have 10 minutes left. We're going to open up to the audience. I'm sure you have loads of questions. We have a microphone going around. If I can please have it right here at the front row, the lady in red.
Hi, thank you so much. This was a very insightful conference. I do have a question. We spoke about beauty trends, fragrance trends, and we realized that sustainability is one of the greatest trends right now. But what are your thoughts about, brands sort of misusing that in a way of, say, greenwashing, and how does that impact your business? How do you deal with that? How do you tackle that?
We launched a sustainable line around 10 years ago now called Green Me. And there's a lot of new laws happening in Europe mainly. And greenwashing is a big thing now happening, especially in Europe, where our head office is based. Greenwashing is a big thing. There's a lot of new laws coming up in Europe. We're actually rebranding also our line to Kiko kind and focusing on the natural ingredients, the sustainable packaging. We don't want to induce in our customer. I think for a brand, when you speak about sustainability, it's just especially being true to what you're doing and not misleading your consumer. That's why also we decided to change the name of the brand, the name of that specific categories. And then in terms of communication, we are talking about CRM, data, and how we address those concerns through Gen Z that are the most concerned at the moment on the market. We do take actions, it means a lot to us. So globally, we partner with companies to reduce plastic use in our packaging. We're making sure as well that any wood that we're using is coming from sustainable farm. Those are the things that matter to us, and then communicate it in a way that is not overwhelming. We're not pushing. It's not something that you're going to see as soon as you enter into the store, or communication that we're trying to push out there to convince the consumer that we are taking the right steps, because those consumers that want to buy a brand that is sustainable is doing to do the research. So if you go on our website, if you do research, yes, you will find the information. And I feel that the brands that are truly sustainable are not the ones that are advertising in your face that they're sustainable. They will do the right thing because they believe they're doing the right thing.
I completely agree. So in clean beauty, greenwashing is probably one of our biggest problems. I'm going to be really honest. Clean beauty sometimes has a bad reputation for exactly this. Yes. And you would know, right? I think the reason for this is clean beauty, we have this whole, we don't use nasties. We don't use nasties. There's a little bit of fear factor involved in the marketing in the first place. I completely agreed with the statement just before. What I found in my industry is the truly sustainable brands are not the ones shoving it in your face. If you were truly eco-friendly and never wanted to hurt the planet, you would not be in this industry. Let's look at the data. I think beauty packaging is the third most polluting thing in the world. I'm going to launch a beauty brand, but then talk about how I'm going to save the planet while I'm doing it. At the end of the day, it's a consumer. You are in a consumer business. You are making individually packaged goods to sell to people for money, right? Unless you're a nonprofit, what are you doing, right? So clean beauty has this bad reputation, and I think the way consumers can deal with it is, again, just doing your own due diligence. If the brand is not shoving it in your face, if they're being honest and transparent, that is a green flag. So I think the best way to address this as a small brand, as a big brand, is just to be transparent.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Hello, I am Satya Prabhu from India, from southern part of India. We have lot of herbal products which are coming from India, which are fully herbs. There is no synthetic added to it, but it is not reaching the markets in the other places. If we have to sell those products here in other parts of the world, how do we convince the customer that these products can be used by them and it will be an affordable price? We get in enough numbers. People are using it since centuries in India and it is not reaching other part of the world, and we wish to do it. How can we do it? Thank you.
So actually, I know a few Indian female beauty founders who specialize in Ayurvedic beauty, and it's very common in clean beauty. So I think Ayurvedic skincare and beauty is already clean by its nature. And actually, I feel they also have this problem. They are not able to penetrate the other global markets, like, for example, East Asia and Japan, as much as they should, actually. And I think this one of the biggest struggles that you will probably notice, and what they have experienced and what they have told me, is that number one, teaching and educating and marketing the idea of Ayurvedic. Like, what is it, right? What is Ayurveda? And then the second thing is the source material. Like, why are these herbs that are not so well known overseas? To tell a Japanese person, for example, use turmeric in your skincare, why, right? So a Japanese person might say, why? Turmeric is a spice we eat, right? So again, it's, I think, this cultural challenges that you have in different regions. So my advice to you is to take a look at what you have, this beautiful Ayurvedic culture, and then learn about how to communicate it across to different regions. It's, again, education, education, education. Look, when we did the 24K gold plate gua sha brush, people looked at me like I was insane. But it is one of our top selling items now. You just need to communicate and educate. That is the most important thing. And then you will find your niche.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of our panel. It was so exciting to speak to all of you today. Really fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's pose for a photo, shall we? Thank you very much.